Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's the Summit 5 Chinese qualifiers, Game 5 of a best of 5. We've made it through 2 phases so far, 12 best of 3s, and these 2 teams stand alone. The Wings Gaming facing off against VG.Reborn, and it's coming right down to the wire. It's been a fabulous series so far. We've had highs and lows for both squads, a 14-minute GG as well as a game that went over an hour, and now we're looking at another one coming up right now. I'm Lyrical Dota, joined today by Scant. Batrider first, followed up by the Vengeful Spirit, but this time VG.Reborn switch it up and they're going to take the Tidehunter. A little bit of a departure from what we saw before.
Yep, we even stole the same bans, so everything was the same up until the Tidehunter pick. Now the Disruptor pick. These ones are new from last game. Obviously, Tidehunter did get banned in the second phase last time by Wings, indicating that they didn't want VGR to have a big team fight advantage, because it's kind of, that's something that's naturally good against VG, against Wings, the way they play. Remember the 14-minute game was the one where VGR started with Phoenix and Void, the one where they had the push lineup but also guaranteed the team fight wins, and Wings just couldn't do anything. So obviously Tide's going to work well against them. It's why they banned it second phase last time, and that's why VGR first phase pick it this time, so that it can't be banned in the second phase. And Wings, I like the Disruptor response, because it's not only a good aggressive support to use the glimpse with the Batrider when you're chasing people, it's also pretty good against the Tidehunter, actually. It's one of the few heroes that can lock down a Tidehunter through Kraken Shell. If you catch him inside your Static Storm, it doesn't matter if his Kraken Shell proxy, he'll still be silenced. So you can actually win a fight against the Tidehunter without him ever using Ravage.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely one of the best parts about this hero, and it's one of the reasons that we end up seeing him picked all the time. I mean, Tidehunter is very popular, also great against the Slark and a couple of those other heroes that have sort of defined this patch to a large extent. Glimpse being able to mess with the Phoenix in his Sunray form, and we're going to see the second phase around this time. VG.Reborn are going to ban out the Bounty Hunter, so they don't want to take it for themselves, and they also don't want to end up giving it over to Wings, considering they had the third pick. Given what we've seen so far, what do you think they're going to end up going for here? It feels like if VG.Reborn wanted to, they could run even something aggressive like a Drow strat potentially. Do you think that after all of the games we've had so far, either team would try and commit heavily towards one of those, you know, for lack of a better words, cheesy strategies?
Yeah, Wings will do it. I mean, there's never a time where they won't do it. If that's what they want to do, they'll do it. It is a high pressure situation, so you want to be a little bit less risky with what you're doing, but not all of those strategies that people call cheese strategies are necessarily risky. Whereas I expect VGR in particular to be much less risk, more risk averse here, and more not just more risk averse, but more kind of standard in their drafting approach. I think that they're more likely to pick a stronger support hero to go with the Venge this time. Like Bounty Hunter, I'm not saying it's a weak hero like in general, but for the lane stage in terms of controlling the offlaner, they did well last time with their Lifestealer being able to kill the Bat early, but he still got a decent blink timing. And if you go back and you look at the last game, if Batrider doesn't get his blink when he gets it, the entire game's different. It's like, if he's a few minutes further delayed on that, it's a very important part. I mean, VGR have two things here. The one is that they can try and do a bit better against the Bat, so he gets a slower blink than he did last game. The other is that they've got the Tidehunters. They could build around, if you jump on us, we actually take the big team fights and you can't beat us. And I was saying towards the end of last game, VGR had really nice scaling in terms of carries. They didn't have great scaling in terms of control, and Tidehunter is like almost like the epitome of that. It's the control team fight hero that scales throughout the game, because even later when people have BKBs, you got a refresher orb and they still got to play around you.
No, totally. That's something that you can definitely end up having. And Vengeful Spirit, not a hero that necessarily, when you think about her, scales incredibly well, but allows your other heroes to shine that much more. You think about a swap into a Hex, something else like that. If you have a hero that's going to pick up that item, or even just a Lion potentially, these are the type of plays that can be game defining, because you pull somebody so far out of position, and eventually maybe you even end up being able to get an Aghanim Scepter, and it amounts to the same type of play. But as far as the other bans that we're seeing here, after the Bounty Hunter, it was the Spectre, as well as that Slark that we were talking about a little bit earlier, and last but not least, the Sven. And I really am curious what VG.Reborn's pick is going to be here. I do feel like I would agree with you that they're maybe going to be playing a more risk-averse style, but you never know. In these best-of-5 situations, these teams have played each other, and it's been dead even every time. And even one game, Wings kind of out-drafting themselves. I feel like you might be feeling a little bit nervous going into the Wings draft here.
10 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, I just mean in terms of the psychology of the drafting.
Right.
Like when one team in a match is known for being creative and very out of the box, and you're in this like final game of best of five, the other team is more likely to just be they're trying to be careful and tick all the boxes and make sure they've got all the things they need. So that VGR, the last thing they want is to lose this game based on being drafted into a corner where they can't do anything. And so that's I think they'll be thinking about that, whereas Wings will be less concerned about it because it's not like VGR is the team that even the game where they got totally outdrafted, you could say it was by themselves. You know, it
No,
wasn't that
definitely.
match by VGR.
Yeah, I mean the Alk jungle. In theory, in theory it's terrible, but in theory you can understand why they would run it. And now Wings are going to pick up a life stealer as well. So sort of the ghetto storm spirit bomb now with the Bat Rider and the life stealer. It's still incredibly potent, and if you're able of jumping on top of these heroes here, particularly with a disruptor ulti in tow, this could be very devastating. The amount of burst damage that comes out from those two heroes in combination. But it also maybe signals that Wings want to try and fight early and often here, given this lineup already.
Yep, and it's also good against the Tyrant in terms of like being able to rage to not deal with the ravage in fights, and also in terms of just the lane stage. Like this is probably now that they have the lifesteal disruptor, VGR need to be thinking twice about how they want to lane this. Is Tyrant just going to start with the Iron Talon because he's going to struggle to get value out of that off lane?
That is true, and that's something that I always worry about as well. Is just how do you end up making that happen? What's the play for you to try and ensure that you get those levels early? Only 10 seconds left in the draft right now for VG Reborn. They're really cutting this close to the wire, and this was something we saw in the last game too. Interestingly enough, they ended up having that lone druid pick coming with only 1 second left, and we thought that might have been a hero that was a bit of an issue for them. But the Night Stalker taken now. What do you think about this hero? I always feel like if you pressure him and you start getting more aggressive towards him early, obviously like not during a nighttime, but he's just so much of that cyclical hero that it can sometimes cause problems in the game.
It's very good against Batrider, obviously, because you have that vision at night. He has the reduced vision when you turn on your ulti. We do finally see that. I was actually going to say, Alchemist has gone through this draft for a really long time. Is it going to be an Alchemist draft? And it is going to be an Alchemist draft. The Night Stalker is good against Bath. It's pretty good against the Lifestealer as well if you get the silence on him. And you can kite him as well when he tries to slow you. But now that there's an Alchemist, that becomes kind of the focal point in what we need to analyze here, because this is now a draft that's about an Alchemist. And Lifestealer is one of the carries that most Alchemist running teams like to run with Alchemist. I said Clinks was one when they had it in the other game, but Lifestealer as well can be very active and early, can be space creating, can be involved in the early fights if you try and put pressure on the Alchemist. And if you have an Alchemist draft that the other team forces a fight and you still win the fight, then you got everything you need. That's kind of like the dream, to both have the Alchemist and be able to take the fights.
Well, and I think that given that they've already have several heroes that are, I mean, we talked about it, the whole dynamic of their first three picks is to be aggressive early. It's putting them in a great position to secure that. And I will say that, having the Tidehunter as well as the Invoker and the Vengeful Spirit, that should allow you to shut down and secure a Roshan pretty early if you want to. But the Luna is going to get banned. Interesting.
Yeah, Luna would have actually been a really good pick here for VGR. It gives them that kind of pushing element, but it's also really good at fighting high DPS early on. And it's not a hero that we see a lot recently, but it would be good. It also has that synergy with the Night Stalker, a little bit cheesy, but Luna makes extra nighttime for Night Stalker when she ultis. Yeah, I think it's a great ban. Even though it's cool that Wings do that, like not just with their picks, they also ban the hero they think is best for you, not necessarily the one that's the most popular in that spot or whatever.
No, definitely not feeling constrained by what other people are doing. They're making their own Dota 2 and they're playing it as well. So 17 seconds left. Wings Gaming, they need to pull something out right here, and I'm assuming it's going to be one last support. If they run a support Alchemist again, I am going to be very, very surprised, but you never know. It is a possibility. Something they could run. What's it going to be? All right, here we go. Early aggression, abound all over the place. Let's do it.
Yep, extra brawling here, and this is exactly how IG run the Alchemist, and in my opinion, IG is the best team at running the Alchemist at the moment. They run the Alchemist with an aggressive fighting lineup, and that's why I feel like that's actually the best lineup that IG has at the moment, because that's a team that has like the farming Ferrari builds, but also the aggressive builds, and the Alchemist one does both. Because in this kind of lineup, Alchemist with just his armlets can be quite active in fighting early on. It's going to be the Terrorblade against for VGR, so not the Luna, but a hero that does something similar. Really, really high damage outputs and threatening the push. So the plan from VGR very clearly to group up. It's similar to that Phoenix Void game. We group up, we push you, and we've got the team fights that you can't take us on. In this case, the Wings do have plenty of capability to take those team fights on. And I think there was a game. Do you remember which game? I think yesterday, game 2, Wings versus Newbie, when Mu was playing the Alchemist, and I said it was a mistake when he went for the Radiance, and that was why Wings ended up beating them.
Yeah.
But before he went for the Radiance, that early stage of the game, Newbie did what I was referring to. They used their Alchemist, and it was actually just involved in the fighting, and they were able to trade blows. And I think that's what Wings can do this game. The Alchemist is not necessarily going to have to be like, I've got Soul Ring and Armlets, now I have to go farm for a Relic. It can just be part of those early fights at that stage.
5 seconds.
Well, we'll see if they're going to be able to make that happen and be aggressive early and often. It's coming down to the wire here. Game number 5. We start off with the pause, but I gotta say, I am so freaking excited for this. It's not often you get to see a best of 5. It's not often you see a best of 5 move to the final game 5, and it's not often that their team's as good as these. And I'm all over the place. I'm over the moon with excitement. VGR facing off against Wings. Winner goes to LA. Winner goes to the Summit. It would be the first qualifying team. What more could you ask for? Chinese Dota. I'm stoked. I guess I'm not paused, but yeah.
I'm super interested to see what FY does with the Night Stalker, because typically when we've seen support Night Stalkers recently, they just start with the Iron Talon and jungle. And I'm not sure, like, that's a really awkward situation to be in, because Vengeful Spirits and Terrorblade alone are not going to, like, destroy Batrider, right? The Batrider is going to get plenty of value. He's going to get a good early levels at very least, and then be able to farm the Blink in the jungle. And it's just an awkward dynamic in the sense that you expect from the draft that VGR is the team that wants to be applying the pressure proactively. Like, they see Wings as the greedy team, since Wings are the ones with the Alchemist, and they'll be, win lane stage, group up, push kind of thing. And then if they're the ones running the jungle and the other team isn't, and Wings have like a roaming task early on, and Wings are the ones applying pressure in the lane stage, that could be really bad for VGR. So I think probably very important for the early game what FY is doing. Is he jungling? Does that mean that they get pressured? Is he not jungling? Is he roaming? Is he doing hybrid jungling and roaming? I wouldn't be that surprised if he helps out to try and kill the bat once at the start. It feels like this entire series that's been part of VGR's plan to just kill Faith Beyond for first blood, collect that gold.
Yeah, definitely, and it's been something that they've been able to get fairly consistently. Again, having a bit of a pause. I'm only doing one reconnect this game. I'm not going to try and chance it too many more times, but I feel like it's always worth it to at least try one time, as we're still waiting for those players to hop on in, and we'll get to look at the wonderful face of Ricky Maru on the loading screen. So for you, keys for this game, is it just coming down to if VGR can try and punish this early, or do you think that it really depends upon like the offlaners in this game? What to you is like the number one key to the game as far as VGR, what they want to accomplish, and Wings also as well?
This is going to be fighting Dota. Both teams have lineups that can fight, and on that basis, I mean, both teams have lineups that fight. At least one of these teams really likes to fight. Probably, I'd say both of them. And on that basis, I'd assume that the game will be decided based on fighting. The mid-game fights when one team gets an edge over the other. Wings are in a position where, because they have the Alchemist, if they get that edge, they could suddenly just explode and have an Alchemist who's got like 20k net worth and no one else is even at 10k. And then the game's very difficult for VGR to win. At the same time, if VGR are taking advantage of those fights, if they're winning them, they're going to be killing lots of towers because they're the ones with the Terrorblade, the Vengeful Spirits. I think, again, I think the Night Stalker is probably the most important hero in the game, both early and later on, in terms of like the scouting, the vision, the control. But I think it's fights that matter this game, definitely. I don't expect anything else to be decisive except for who's winning important fights, which is kind of cool. That's like, in some sense, what that says is, I was saying at the end of last game, the draft could be big. It might be 90-10 for either team. I don't think we have that. When we have a game where we're saying that the team winning fights early on is going to have a big advantage, that's very much about play, I think.
I can feel you there, and it does look like we're finally going to get this game underway. No, heads off, mid lane. Have we actually seen an Invoker so far this series? I feel like we haven't, right? No, what am I talking about? We had one last game. Scant, please help me out. It's rather late in the evening, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. They do end up picking up that Iron Talon that you were talking about for the Night Stalker, and we have one person reconnect to the game. Shadow's going to head out. Oh, again, I'm so stoked about this game.
It's what's the time where you are now? It's pretty late,
Let's
right?
check. 4:20 in the morning currently.
4:20. It's actually that time.
It actually is. I can't meme that hard. Yeah, it's actually that time. But it's.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So
what about you?
it's been a long series, but some of the games have been quick. Could have been longer. I've casted longer best of fives than this.
Yeah. One of the games was only 14 minutes. We talked about it. It's pretty nuts. But yeah, it's certainly shaping up to be an exciting one to finish it off. As we talked about the early aggressive heroes. I mean, I think that's always the thing with Terrorblade, though, is you can kind of play it both ways. If you've got a lot of heroes that are capable of keeping the enemy hemmed in and controlling them, then you do a ton of damage with your right clicks, and it's not anything to trifle with.
Yeah. I mean, in some sense, I feel like Wings are favored by playing the passive game here because they have the Alchemist, and so their farm rate would just be bigger if everyone's farming. Wings are not a team that does that. They won't do that, and the rest of the heroes are also geared to fighting. That's why I do think that this could be was it the first game of the series where there was just like 1 billion kills in a really short space of time? I think it was, and I think this game could be something like that, and then it'll be like whoever emerges from the bloodbath of constant fighting will be probably the winner.
Yang up here top is going to take a little bit of damage, but shouldn't be too much of an issue. He took that level in Kraken Shell, so open wounds is not going to be a huge problem for him. But it does look like FY is actually going to be staying in lane a little bit at the start, trying to ensure that they get off to a decent beginning as Ice is hanging out here on the Tusk.
Yeah, it's one thing I was saying that the Venge and the Terrorblade won't zone the bat on their own. With the Tusk there, they actually can lose this lane. If the Night Stalker is jungling, they can lose the lane, and it's nicely leveraged by Wings actually recognizing that probably the Night Stalker will be jungling. And again, the dynamics kind of inverted. I find it very interesting that in the overall draft, it feels like it's VGR who have more pressure to get early timings and be aggressive, but in the lane stage, they're the ones being greedy.
That's an interesting idea, yeah. And I guess, can you really leverage that greediness in lane into things further? We've talked about how sometimes little lanes matter for certain teams, particularly newbie when we think about that one, but actually we have to hold that thought. Yang is going to TP away, so he should be able to escape for that one.
Yeah, so he's been doing pretty well for himself. I'm actually impressed that he hasn't had to go for the Iron Talon route. He's kept them kind of busy.
Oh, really nice play there. It was almost going to be a kill bottom lane as ZYF did not get caught in by those shards. He had 5 stacks on him. But that is a nice little play there to make sure that they didn't end up getting caught. I guess it was a little bit of a misplay by Tusk more than anything.
The one thing about running I say quote-unquote greedy Night Stalker in the jungle, well, firstly, FY has been involved a lot. I mean, here he is again, getting involved, and Tusk is going to snowball, but going to need to run away after that. And looks like should be fine, actually. Just a little bit of traded... Oh, no, with the...
Sunstrike? Disruptor here? They find the kill, but actually maybe going to be punished for this one. DDC is going to fall. They had 5 stacks on ZYF, but no mana for Faith Beyond to turn that one back around. And it looks like because of that, they're going to end up trading it 1-1, but First Blood's still going their way, side of Wings.
So the two things about Night Stalker, the first is that he can run to the lane and occasionally cast Void like he has been doing. But the second thing is that it's only greedy until the first night, essentially, because once there's a first night, you can actually be a dominant presence and running around roaming, and that's not too far off now at this stage.
Oh, Haster in mid. They're just going to run at him for the moment. I don't think he can find No-No and get the kill. He's only the 58 damage, but at least causes a little bit of trouble there mid and gives No-No pause. The plus side, though, is that this has ended up meaning the rotation from the Disruptor. Yang started to get levels here. Level 3 on him and level 4 on the Lifestealer, but as Innocence comes back, that means that they're going to have to stop the push there.
I think Tyrants could be in trouble here. He does not have a TP this time, and Shadow, it seems, okay.
No glimpse.
I think they make the kill there. I think Innocence was trying to convince Shadow that it's worth it to go for the kill, and Shadow was like, don't feel like it, and like changed his mind, came in, came out, and It's kind of interesting because that. Remember late in last game, I was saying a similar thing about Shadow's Lycan, where like he left the fights and then ES went in, they actually won the fights. And if I had to pick out one player on the team who seems like sometimes on a different page to his teammates, definitely is Shadow.
It's interesting too. Wings, known for being probably the most consistent Chinese teams as far as rosters are concerned, and you would imagine that they'd have really good communication down at this point, considering how long that they've been together. It was right after TI5, if I'm not mistaken. By the way, if any of you guys didn't get a chance to do it, you should definitely check out Gorgon the Wonder Cow. He wrote a good article about this matchup and what it ends up meaning for Chinese Dota in general, where I was getting that stat from.
Yeah, they have been together for a really long time. I'm sure the communication's great. It's more of a disagreement kind of situation where, you look back in the previous game, the situation I'm talking about, I feel like he probably thought they can't fight. They lost the fight and Invoker died. He didn't expect the Earthcheck to get such a nice go. This one, it's...
Snowball away. Ice almost got dropped down there, but a really good snowball. He was able to get away from the Sunstrike coming in and should be able to survive through this, I would imagine. Metamorphosis, maybe actually going to be able to find this kill regardless of the fact, and not quite there, so they pop meta and not going to be able to find anything for it. A little bit unfortunate, but not a huge issue.
Not able to get the reflection off of it. Now he is. And
oh, there's a lot of damage coming in. He's going to go down. ZYF pays for it.
Does he actually live?
Oh my goodness.
Living. That's incredible.
FY's got him, though. They're going to chase this guy down. I think at least he gets through the trees, trying to dodge away, and they aren't going to be able to find the kill. FY doesn't get him.
Yeah, that's... and this is something consistent about Faith Beyond. By the way, in the meantime, the Titans, it does actually die. It's the Lifesteal Disruptor, but almost every game in the series, and most of the times I watch Faith Beyond, he's an off-laner who regularly dies right at the start, first blood or something like that. But move a few minutes later into the game, he's almost always finding these incredible players. It's like he just needs to get over that small hump, just to get the death out of his system, and then... this game he didn't even get it. So this game, really fantastic.
And that's absolutely huge. Again, being able to get a kill on that Terrorblade. FY is actually going to wrap around here, and he does have his silence if they want to try and find this kill. They're just going to place the ward for the moment, which gives them a little bit of vision for later on when they want to try and pressure this. But yeah, Terrorblade, he's not necessarily had the greatest lane ever, and you compare his CS right now, 22 versus the 42 of the Lifestealer, and more importantly, levels. Lifestealer is almost level 7, and Terrorblade's still stuck at level 4. He's been going to continue to get bullied by this Batrider.
Forget about Lifestealer and Terrorblade. Alchemist already has Armlet. That's like...
Yeah.
He went for the bottle this time, not for the Soul Ring, and I was talking about how this is an Alchemist that if the fight breaks out early on, he could just go into the fights with this armaments. I think it's certainly possible. They're going to gank him.
Oh, no ulti coming out for him. They actually dropped the meatball, and that's going to be the kill. They might be able to find Innocence here as well. He rotated in, and I think that they end up being able to walk away. Maybe Snowball coming through, going to try and kill off Nono. Not going to be able to find that one as of yet. Yang, no Ravage, but everybody is so low trying to kill off Ice, and I think that Nono's just going to go down. They lose 3. Oh, that was a bit far of a dive, and that really helps out VGR. They needed something desperately.
Yeah, that was not the play for Wings. That was like, it's actually not that bad for your Alk to be ganked. He didn't have any gold, he just spent it, and it was a pretty big commitment. But to TP in 2 heroes and then just like dive till Kingdom come and get them both killed, quite unnecessary, I want to say, coming out of Wings. But very good for VGR.
Definitely. Maybe showing a little bit of those nerves as well that, again, on the big stage. Obviously, they've played in huge matches before as well. ESL won Manila to be the most recent of them, but it's always scary in these best of 5s. You play long series and end up almost being able to get it. Looking down here as well, and End is starting to farm up somewhat effectively. The Batrider is still soaking up experience, but they're going to try and dive him now. The snowball forward, they have the catch, but DDC is going to be there trying to keep his carry alive. He is going to be able to walk away, but no, the right click comes through. They get the kill before the Ravage falls, and that's going to end up being Terrorblade's still dead. Mid lane, though, maybe going to be able to kill off this Alchemist. He's just too tanky. They don't have enough to bring him down. FY is just going to get ran at and almost ends up going down. Sunstrike looking for it, not going to be able to find it.
Yeah, when it's just the Nightstalker and the Invoker, the Alchemist has his ulti as well as his Armlet, he's well out of their reach at this stage. I don't know, I still think like the progression of this game in terms of game plan is going Wings' way.
Yeah.
Alchemist's farm rate is pretty damn good, and no signs yet of VGR pressuring any towers. In fact, it's Wings who are pressuring the tier 1, the top lane first.
Oh my god,
And
they're
then
actually
Batright
just going
bot
to
lane.
full end. Yeah, this is the problem that you have with the Terrorblade as a hero is, maybe going to be able to find this. He has high armor, but if you're able to do that magical damage, you can just run him down. And Faith Beyond, no fuss, no muss. He takes down the TB again. They're going to try and chase him here with FY. Sunstrike's going to come through, not going to connect, and actually just goes for the double back juke. Get out of my way. They're going to throw out the magic missile, and that should be the kill. Still a couple of fancy footwork moves there, and Batrider could have been out.
But you know what, the Bat would, if he could agree to just keep killing Terrorblade and dying for it, he'd do it all day. Like, that's good enough for his team to win the game. In the meantime, the Alchemist is just getting farmed, the Lifesteal is getting farmed, the Invoker's getting some farm, and the Tie's getting some farm, but it's different. Like, the heroes that have it. If you have an unimpeded Alchemist farming, this is something that these days we see so rarely, because teams usually, when they give it away, they contest it so heavily, but it's a really difficult thing to win against, and it looks like the natural approach for VGR is to be pushing to apply pressure, but the Terrorblade is the key pushing hero, and he's the one who's really struggling to get anything in this game. He's actually farming Ancients now with the Tident.
Yeah, I mean, look at this, the net worth right here. He's below everybody except for the Vengeful Spirit, your position 1 hero. Granted, you do have a lot of team fight potential on the side of VGR, and those heroes are getting what they need to make this work. But I'm just not sure if it's going to be enough. DDC, meanwhile, is going to throw out that magic missile. Innocence falls. Invoker gets the kill. So there are the pieces there, but TB just needs to get a lot of farm in this game. He has to be able to turn into that position 1 that really is going to force some moves from his opponents, and it's just not going to be the case against that Batrider. And you see down here bottom, FY just gets killed. They are going to build a... Oh, man. Big plays from Wings. They know exactly what they need to do to win, and they're making it happen.
This game is looking very, very dire. And I mean that in both senses. It's looking dire for the Radiant, and it's looking good for the Dire. Could even say it's looking radiant for the Dire. That's a terrible joke.
It's all good. It's late. We've talked about it.
Yeah, Alchemist is just getting to really good timing on what's going to be a Relic and a Radiance, and there's nothing in sight that suggests that there's going to be anything that VGR can do to punish them. Like, this is going to be a game where Alch just gets to do what he wants, and if anything, Wings are the team that's pressuring towers and pressuring kills, and you really don't want to be on the... I was saying in the draft, if you can be winning fights and skirmishes and be the team of the Alchemist, that's the dream. That's all you ever wanted.
Well, and we see the 3-man smoke now, trying to see if they can get anything at all. They have the scan that's going up towards the top there, but it doesn't look like they're going to be able to find anybody. Alchemist heads down bottom, and is maybe going to be able to get another little rune. It's a DD, unfortunately, not going to be that bounty rune, but they're going to take this and head down bottom, take a tower, and he's going to be pretty close to his Relic. He is in such a great position right now. I mean, ostensibly could be a 13-minute Relic if they get all of these last hits and finish off the tower as well.
Yeah, it's really well read as well. Wings recognizing that this is a window where party VGR want to go for a play like that, and if we just group up, we're not really susceptible to it at all. So sure, we'll lose our mid tier 1, but we get their bot tier 1. That's an okay trade. Our Lifesteal is farming separately on the map, and he's now come to join them too. And I think it's possible that Wings actually... I'm not sure. I'm wondering if they want to... Like, you have an Alchemist who's so close to Radiance, the chances are that he doesn't want to fight. But I think it's possible for them to go for some more pickoffs in the meantime while he is farming, and maybe even... The question is going to be, are they going to defend their tier 1 top?
I don't think that they can. They just TP'd up towards the mid tier 2, so I don't think that they would be able to have all 5 there. And you can see clearly that VGR is all heroes together, and they're going to be able to take this one probably unimpeded. But the pings come out for tier 2. If VGR try and pressure that one, then they'll probably take the fight. It's worth noting that Nightstalker is also building very rapidly into his next item, whatever that happens to be. But Innocence TPing to the tier 2 mid. And
Alchemist this Radiance.
Oh my goodness.
It is finished. And this is like, again, I was saying he's ready in this game to fight with Armlets, he's also ready to fight with Armlet Radiance. They're definitely gonna take this fight.
This
They
is
should
going
win
to be
it.
huge. Faith
all
Beyond
about
is
the
up
rest.
front center. They've got Lifesteal on tied of them. They're going to be able to pull FY back right from the start. Ravage is going to be there, but honestly, I don't think that they can even take the fight after that. They're going to chase down DDC. Snowball is pulling up a couple of heroes with them, and they drop the Ravage, but there's going to be the Static Storm onto 2. DDC not getting off a single ability. They get the mechanism off, but that's going to be a dead Vengeful Spirit. Meanwhile, End is going to end up getting his TP broken as well. The Terrorblade's going to end up falling. Oh, 3 are dead in a matter of seconds. Wings are just too strong right now.
Yeah, and this whole, by the way, I still think this all spirals out of control of the fact that the Night Stalker has an Iron Talon and he's jungling, and I think he recognized it. FY recognized it. It was very clear, and he tried to come help every now and then. But ultimately, the biggest problem for VGR in this game is that Terrorblade had an awful start and Alchemist had a great start. There's not a whole lot they could do about the Alchemist having a great start, but you'd think they could do something about Terrorblade having a bad start, and that's just to have 2 supports in the lane, have a 3v2, not a 2v2. The Night Stalker came in a few times, but it wasn't enough, and what it turned out is that once the lane sort of collapsed a bit, Terrorblade was getting solo killed by bats repeatedly, and there wasn't much that they could do about it. And now Terrorblade is just looking really fragile. He missed the timing where he could push and apply pressure, and in the fights he's weak. He's really weak.
Yeah, I mean, again, really high armor on this hero, but all of the damage that's coming out pretty much is all in the form of magic and the Radiance burn, and sure, you've also got the Lifestealer there that's right-clicking heroes, but it's just, he's not tanky enough. Only 1200 HP at this stage in the game, and I don't know, I'm really struggling to see right now how Vici Gaming end up being able to continue this. It's been a really hotly contested series, and this game 5 is looking to be going Wings' way if they don't end up changing things very rapidly.
Yep, VGR needs to succeed in like a pretty significant smoke gank. That's what I feel. Convert that into a tower or 2 if they can. There was a smoke board recently on the courier. It hasn't been flown out yet, but it's so scary because you start a fight, you go for a gank. Well, there's always a chance that you end up having to take a 5v5, and that's like, as much as I say a team with an Alchemist who's comfortable to win fights, that's the dream. The nightmare is a team with a tight end who's not comfortable to win fights. It's like, why do you have this hero if you can't take 5v5s?
Mid lane, they are going to lose the Tusk, but I think that that's going to be the extent of it. They might be able to actually take this engagement, though. I mean, Ravage is back up at this point, so VGR hitting an okay timing at this point. They're going to walk in. Oh,
It's daytime. I don't think there's any chance.
Oh god, they pull back End, the best target. He's gonna end up getting stunned. Silence. No. Oh, they actually push him out of the Static Storm, unfortunately, and Ravage available. They're gonna chase down DDC, at least finding him, and maybe gonna be able to get more. They're jumping onto Yang and actually just gonna run him down. Lifestealer's chasing in a melee creep. They do have eyes on Yang, and he is gonna end up falling here. No luck in terms of being able to stop the chase. My god, Wings are monsters through and through.
I don't want to be that guy, but this game is like quite close to over already. This game is super difficult for VGR already. Again, goes back to the 2 pieces of commentary I just gave, where you're the Alchemist team. You can farm wherever you want, and you're also not afraid to take fights. You're the Tide team. You're scared to take a team fight.
Oh,
Those are the pretty distinguishing signs that the game is in a terrible place for one team and an amazing place for the other.
and right there as well, you saw that Shadow is taking away these Ancients that are just so necessary for any form of being able to catch up on VG.Reborn. ZYF End here on the Terrorblade is just so underfarmed at this point. He's catching up, but very much behind the other carry, and certainly the Alchemist. What do you feel like is going to be this? I mean, it looks like he's going to end up going for the Manta style. I was wondering if maybe Alchemist tries to build into something that's a little bit more into the fighting style, but I guess keeping the lanes pushed out and making sure that they're always able to take a fight on their terms is the most important thing.
Yeah, I mean the greedy Alchemist Manta Octarine build it's mostly about, you see it split pushing, but it's also decent for fighting, and there's no reason not to go for that build that gets you even further ahead when there's no pressure on you. Like I've talked a lot about how he can fight this game, and if he wanted, he could even itemize more fighting oriented, but it's totally unnecessary. He's basically untouchable as things stand, so why not just go for the preferred Alch build?
Ooh, and now you have a 3-person smoke gank going to come out from Wings again. It just feels like they're always on point, realizing where it is that they need to go. And Nono is the one standing up there in the lane, not going to be able to find him as of yet. They're going to chase, pulling back FY. He's going to go down. Nothing stopping him. And maybe, I don't think that they can find the Invoker. But it would be pretty lucky to find that guy. Well, the smoke breaks. Do they have vision? No, they don't. They don't have any reveal.
Yeah, so I guess if they walk in there, they'll see that there's a ghost walk on them, and they'll at least know for sure that he's there. But even then, they wouldn't be able to kill him. Yeah, still, the Invoker's not getting anything done just by standing around there.
Yeah, that's true. He has his TP boots now, so it's going to be able to escape. Yeah, they actually did have dust on Innocence, so if they happened to find him, that would have been really huge. And Nono is actually going to walk into there, lifts him up. There's going to be the Sunstrike down and trying to find the kill. Turns around with the Static Storm. We're just going to try and bring down the Invoker on his lonesome, but no such luck as the rest of his team was gone. And Invoker giggles to himself.
So Invoker did actually achieve something. I was wrong. He certainly, it definitely makes it worth the while. And I mean, Disrupt is not that important, but any kind of kills just to disrupt the flow of the game for Wings are very important right now for VGR. That's what they have to try and do. Just put together a few kills here and there. Don't let Wings get into their kind of own rhythm, because they're not going to be stoppable if they do.
Well, right now it's also a 7,500 net worth lead with right about the same amount of experience. But that being said, you do have a lot of heroes for VGR that are relatively well farmed. You've got the Tidehunter now, who has the mechanism and also the Blink Dagger. So Initiation, level 2 Ravage can come out. They can take fights, I do believe. It's just, it's so hard to actually finish them off. And it does look like with that scan, they're going to reveal that Roshan is being taken. It doesn't look like they have any great way to stop it. Oh my god, Shadow was almost killed by that Sunstrike. That would have been really key. That would have been great.
Yeah, that would have been pretty big. But luckily for him, he doesn't go down. And this game is super difficult for VG Gaming Reborn. This will be one of the more difficult games they've played in a while. They can only do what they can do. That's the main thing to do in the position that VG are in, is not to like freak out and expect the impossible from themselves. For example, they can't stop Alchemist farming. Right. He is going to farm as much as he wants for the rest of the game, and there's nothing they can do about that. So they can look for a pick-off here and there. They can try and split push a bit like they are doing on the top lane. They can keep scaling, and they can wait for mistakes and try and punish them. But in terms of like interfering with the major game plan of Wings, of just like having a ridiculously farmed Alchemist, they can't do anything about it. It's just something they have to come to terms with and just make peace with at this stage.
Yeah, and you see right now, they bring back the Alchemist immediately. VG Gaming Reborn try and find a pick off there, but not going to be able to make it happen. And because of that, they've still bought themselves a little bit more time. The tier 2 tower mid is not going to fall, and gets to farm a little bit more ZYF, building into that Manta style of his own, and possibly going to be able to turn it. I mean, again, late game, VG Gaming Reborn's draft is really good. It's just about getting there, and Wings haven't taken all the tier 2 towers yet. If they're able to buy a little bit more time like that, maybe you start building into something where you're capable of fighting, but it just feels like it's not really going to have that opportunity.
I mean, at this farm rate, if they were to get to the late game, they'd get there with like 100,000 gold deficits, and then they wouldn't be that strong.
It's true. Well, FY getting chased down. They pop the darkness, force staff forward, drums popped as well, and now they're going to be able to catch him. And Shadow is on top of FY. He is going to fall. No way to stop it. Just a flurry of damage.
Yeah, this game is very difficult. I wonder. Let's see if this Alchemist goes for the Octarine, and that's the standard build to expect. Yeah,
he has 5,000
I don't see much
gold.
Reason not to.
Yep,
yeah.
He just buys it, because that's a thing. Oh my god, he is so farmed. Take a look real quick at the GPM, 930 at 22 minutes. That is so much gold.
Yeah, I mean, he's richer than the 2 most farmed people in the enemy team put together. And his lifesteal is richer than either of them on his own as well. So the economic lead cannot be understated at this stage. It's immense.
That being said, he's a big chunk of gold if they can find the kill, and he's here alone for the moment. Gonna walk into the jungle, not gonna be able to find him. So yeah, he just TP's over. He's going to help out his team, and the tier 2 tower is going to be there. Again, if you can find a kill, it's a lot of gold going back the way of VG.Reborn. It's just winning a fight is nigh impossible.
Yeah, the one thing is that Wings' supports are pretty poor. They're actually poorer than the supports in VGR. But it's not clear that there's ever been a stage in the game where that's mattered. You know, the Disrupt and the Tusk, there's nothing about their functioning that requires them to have items at this stage. And Wings say, okay, time for high ground. We're gonna force you to actually acknowledge our existence, deal with us.
Breaking the blink of the Tidehunter as well, just everything going their way, and they've got... They know exactly what they need to do. They're making it happen from this point. He's going to try and walk in from the other direction and does have his blink available, but there's not really a great follow-up afterwards. Tidehunter Ravage does not a team fight make, as they've already taken the tier 3 tower. Now it's daytime. The fight is even harder. DDC gets pulled back, just evaporated inside their own base, and this is looking to potentially be a melee barracks going. They pop the Ravage, trying to do whatever they can possibly do to bring him down, but the Alchemist is just too tanky. Static Storm falls as well. They're going to bring on back No. He drops down as the dust comes out, and he is going to be able to Yule Scepter it off, but it was never going to end up being able to work. 4 heroes dead, Tidehunter the only one left alive, and it does look like they're going to end up just continuing to go mid. Oh.
I think VGR, yeah, they're busy. I mean, there's still tier 2s, and so no more axes can be taken, but they all have started having conversations about, guys, can we actually win this game? Because I think they used every possible thing they could on the Alchemist there, and he didn't even come close to dying. Maybe the approach is the cheap Terrorblade player where you get your Terrorblade very low and then run in and start the fight with the Sunder, and you know, now he's really low, you can kill him, but that's a pretty difficult tactic to get off at this level of game, and Alchemist does so much regen anyway. I wouldn't be that surprised if they like Sunder him to 20% HP and he's back up in a few seconds.
Yeah,
this is the Shiva's build, and this is the build that he has popularized. Wings themselves kind of started this Alchemist Shiva's thing back at ESL. Before that, it was almost always we'd see Alchemists go for AC in the progression, yeah. But they did very well with the Shivas. I mean, that was the tournament that they won, and it does really help you to fight. It makes you much more tanky, and also helps you to kite in and out and abuse your regen if people try and go on you.
It's definitely the item in this game that's going to melt them to do this. Again, with both tier 2s suddenly gone, no more Ravage for 50 seconds. You can understand VGR wanting to play this out to the end. DDC gets caught a second time now, and the tier 3 towers are going to fall. They do get out the Reflection, which ends up being a little bit of Radiance damage the other way, but good game gets called, as we are going to see Wings, your first champions here, the qualifiers from the China region. They're going to celebrate right now, heading off into the fountain, and they're going to be taking their trip to LA. Congratulations, Wings Gaming. They were able to make it happen.
Oh man, whoever's doing translating work at the summit's going to have a good time, because it's going to be so much fun to talk to these players and like try and get into their head, get an idea of how they think about the game, how they think about the draft, because the Wings is like really a team to get excited about, honestly. I mean, nothing against VGR, they're also great, they're also very good. Both of these teams going to the major, both of them expected to do quite well. But Wings are a novelty that's, I feel like, been lacking in Dota 2 for a long time. There hasn't been a team that's been this willing to be bold, creative, experimental in what they do with the games. And we saw in this series itself, sometimes it really backfires horribly. They got obliterated in 14 minutes in one game. But on balance, they do well. They keep doing their thing. On balance, it gets them far, and it's just gotten them to another level.
Absolutely. It's really cool to see it happen, and again, congratulations to Wings, as well the VG.Reborn. These two teams, as you mentioned, they're both going to the Manila Major. They pushed it to a 5-game series. They were with them until the very end, and just it ended up being a bit of an outdraft plus some more outplays that happened. So congratulations to both teams, but it is, as we switch on over to the brackets, going to be Wings, who are your champions from the China region. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. It was an absolute pleasure casting for you all. And again, Lyrical Dota as well as Scant. You can follow us on Twitter at Lyrical Dota and at Scantsor. Any final thoughts before we close this last one out here?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say, I'm not sure that game is even much of an outdraft, as much as what that game should underscore is the importance of how you set up your lanes and what you do. Because I really do think that that game gets won on the fact that Wings make the decision that they can handle their safe lane with just 2 heroes. They can thus put the Tusk in the off lane to put pressure on the Terrorblade. And the fact that there's a Night Stalker who wants to be jungling at least some of the time, I think that's what loses the game for VGR. So it's something that we talk about how in the current meta, a lot of the time the lane stage doesn't matter much. But there are some games where if you can be pressured in the right ways in the lane stage, especially if the team doing the pressuring is the one that's supposed to be pressured early on, the one with the Alchemist, that can be game winning. And I think it was in that game.
Well, again, congratulations, and we're going to see them in LA. They're your first champions from the qualifying regions, Wings Gaming. I don't think there's a whole heck of a lot else to say about it, but really excited to see them when they end up going through. And stay tuned because we got some more great Summit action that's going to be taking place a little bit later on this week. We've got SCA still to play. We've got EU. I think some more stuff coming out from NA as well. So all of the regions coming together. And, of course, this tournament is going to be taking place a little bit later on in the year. So stay tuned. Continue to follow at this channel at Beyond the Summit on Twitter, and we'll see you guys next time. Have a good one, everybody.